Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm so excited to get into these questions. So our first question is, can you tell us a little bit about, what rural Renaissance looks like to you? And I know that that is, the ultimate aim of the fellowship. So why don't we start with Erin this time?
So when I think of rural Renaissance, I think of where Renaissance comes from, the French word of rebirth. And so this question to me is like, well, how do we breathe new life into rural communities? I'm a homecomer, and I like to think that young people who already have that rural perspective, do have an opportunity to really contribute to that revitalization. If they know the area, maybe they leave and decide to come back, or maybe they know that rural life is right for them. And it's a great place to decide to raise a family, have a career. But perhaps more importantly, than the concept of homecoming is the idea that maybe we need to be open to welcoming new people. And there are homecomers and there are newcomers. And I think it's going to take a combination of both. Newcomers are immigrants, newcomers are refugees, newcomers are, anyone who decides that rural life is a life for them. And in order for those newcomers to be happy, I think it is up to us, people who are already here in rural areas, to ensure that we welcome them. That might mean that we are open to shifting our culture a little bit. We're open to going out on a limb sometimes. We're open to standing up for what we believe. But I think that if we are going to expect newcomers to come and thrive in rural areas, we have a responsibility to support them and do things that we can to ensure that they can thrive and be happy in rural America.
Well, thanks, Erin. How about you, Rachel, on Renaissance?
So as I was, went down memory lane and, thought about Renaissance, remembering that, it took place, Middle Ages, 14th, 17th century. There were several words, that really stood out to me, the words of rediscovery, renewed, and so what does rural Renaissance look like to me? It's about better understanding each other. Like I said, I believe that this is a period of enlightenment and revolution, about being better people, and focusing on that humanism part of things, that we are individuals, and this is the time that, opportunity for coming together and bringing unity. So I truly believe that this is a time for rediscovery, and the rebirth of something truly great. You look at the world, you look at society, and there's often this big emphasis on the big or populated areas being where great things are happening. Hollywood, Washington, you think of all the other bigger states and other parts of the world, and it's as though the small towns, the cities are hidden or forgotten. But there's something so special and unique about us, about the small towns. And I think it really starts with each of us, the inside of us. We were all created for a purpose. We all have these gifts, these talents and abilities. We bring the excitement to our communities. We bring the change. We're leaders, no matter what walk of life you come from. I just believe that we are all leaders in some form or fashion. We are the change makers, the trendsetters. And that starts, each and every day inside all of us, starting with a passion or an opportunity, to continue to step out of our comfort zones and make it happen. And so that's my perspective on rural Renaissance.
Thanks, Rachel. How about you, Anne?
For myself, I know from being from Lower Sioux, I forgot to mention at the beginning, like I grew up in Minneapolis, but have come back to our community probably over 20 years ago. And my mom came back over 30 years ago. So for tribal communities, there's always really been not so much a renaissance, but a need to come back to your community to figure out how you can help and connect in that space. Not only for your community, but even for yourself, for your own self-identity. With like colonization and forced assimilation, there's really a need to reconnect. And so for myself, with coming back and other people who are here, there's always this sense of wanting to feel like you belong. And I think in these smaller communities, it's so much easier to do that, to connect with people, to get to know people personally. I mean, I think I know everyone's entire family scope, you know, like from kids all the way to their grandparents, and that connection with people in rural areas is just not available in the cities. I've never had that experience before. So I think really the renaissance for myself and for my community seems to be, how can I come back and connect? How can I make a difference here? And so like with the art, seeing a need for people of not feeling supported as artists and not being able to create traditional pieces that help them mark really significant periods in their families' lives, and that resurgence of, you know, bringing that artistic ability back to people and reclaiming that part of their identity. So for me, I think Rural Renaissance is just really connecting still, but as, you know, our whole, you know, everything becomes much more global. And so even as I, you know, order all my stuff from Amazon, or, you know, I go home and there's packages, you know, it's the gap, I think, is closed a little bit, where you're able to access things, people, connections globally so much easier than it used to be. So, but it's really much more of a personal connection with people that I feel for rural areas has really been such a big benefit. So.
Thanks, Anne. And